You weren't just a quiet child. You were carrying echoes from before birth. There's a certain kind of child who stares at the stars not with wonder, but with recognition. A child who feels the weight of the world like an ill-fitting coat, heavy where it shouldn't be. You weren't mature for your age. You were an old soul crammed into a body too small for your memories. The world called you sensitive, but what they didn't know, you weren't breaking. You were remembering. And that's the real shock, when your soul's frequency collides with a world that refuses to match it. The vibrational shock of an old soul in a young body. You didn't cry at cartoons. You cried at sunsets. Not because they were beautiful, but because they felt like a language you'd forgotten. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, but you didn't need a term for it. You lived it. Every childhood silence was a prayer. Every strange question, "Do you remember where we were before this?" was a clue. They told you were too deep, but depth wasn't your choice. It was your soul age screaming through the veil. A dense world feels heavier when your essence is light. Think of it. A wanderer's heart trapped in a playground. Other kids chased balls. You chased ghosts. Not of the dead, but of the before. That homesickness with no address. That empathy overload when adults argued, like you were absorbing centuries of human pain. They called it asterisk childhood sensitivity. Asterisk wrong. It was spiritual fatigue, the cost of holding a frequency this world hadn't learned to hear. You didn't lose innocence. You arrived already initiated. While others learned fear, you recognized it. Like an old song, half remembered. Your early awakening wasn't a gift. It was a karmic burden, a soul contract signed in some other lifetime. Playdates felt like rituals. Nap times like forced amnesia. And the older you got, the louder the dissonance grew. Not because you were broken, but because the veiling process was cracking. Being too mature wasn't a compliment. It was a warning, a sign you were out of sync, a vibrational mismatch between your blueprint and their blueprint. You didn't act wise. You were wise. And that's the cruelty, spiritual maturity in a world that rewards pretending. So you learn to shrink, to laugh when expected, to nod when required. But the loneliness, that never left. Because awareness is the loneliest weight of all. Here's the truth they won't tell you. Your exhaustion isn't fatigue. It's cosmic nostalgia. A homesickness for a place you can't name. That's the shock, realizing you're not from here. Not fully. Your soul remembers a rhythm this world can't play. And the older you get, the clearer it becomes. This isn't about fitting in. It's about waking up. But here's the cliffhanger. What if waking up means remembering the mission you agreed to before you even got here? The emotional experience of feeling different. You laughed differently. You cried deeper. And they called it strange. Not because you were performative, but because your emotions had roots in places they couldn't see. Childhood sensitivity wasn't fragility. It was antennae. You sensed the unspoken, the teacher's hidden frustration, the other kids' forced smiles, the way adults lied about happiness. It wasn't intuition. It was memory. Old souls don't learn empathy. They reawaken it. Loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being unseen. You could be surrounded by family and still feel like a ghost. Not because they neglected you, but because they couldn't see you. Not the real you. The one who remembered lifetimes in the middle of math class. The one who stared at the sky not to daydream, but to listen. That's the curse of early awakening. You speak in a language the world insists is imaginary. You didn't fit in because you weren't designed to. The vibrational mismatch wasn't an accident. It was a setup, a soul contract clause. You will feel out of place, so you never confuse belonging with purpose. Every time you forced yourself to shrink, to laugh at jokes that hurt, to nod at lies that tasted bitter, you weren't failing. You were testing the veil. And the more it hurt, the clearer the message. This is not your tribe. Keep moving. Feeling out of place isn't dysfunction. It's memory. That ache in your chest when you hear certain music, walk into certain rooms, meet certain eyes. That's not nostalgia. It's evidence. Your soul is tracing breadcrumbs back to the blueprint. Carl Jung called it collective unconscious, but you know it is the thing that makes you cry in empty parking lots at midnight. The world says you're too much. The universe whispers, you're right on time. Here's what they'll never admit. Your loneliness of awareness is the price of a mission you don't even remember yet. The deeper you feel, the heavier the karmic burden. Not because you're broken, but because you're activated. Every time you've been called too intense, too quiet, too dramatic, you were just resonating. And resonance disturbs the dormant. But the cliffhanger? The moment you stop apologizing for your depth, the mission begins. The forgotten mission and the silent burden. You weren't sent to belong. You were sent to remind. That's why normalcy feels like a straitjacket. While others chase trends, you chase echoes of what? You don't know. But the pull is visceral, like a magnet in your ribs. The soul remembers what the mind can't explain. That's why you flinch at injustice others ignore. Why empty small talk drains you. Why you've always felt like a guardian of some invisible truth. This isn't ego. It's recognition. The weight you carry isn't yours. It's the task you accepted. Some call it karmic burden, others soul contract. Either way, it's why you wake at 3 a.m. with a hunger no meal satisfies. Why you're drawn to strangers' eyes like they're mirrors. You're not just empathetic, you're accountable. To what? That's the itch you can't scratch. But here's the truth. The mission was never about grand gestures. It's in the whispers, the way you pause when others rush past life's sacred details. You felt lost not because you had no purpose, but because it was veiled, deliberately. Imagine an actor forgetting their role, but still reciting lines by muscle memory. That's you. Every time you cried for no reason, every time you choked on a "this isn't me" mid-conversation, that was the veil tearing. The homesickness isn't for a place. It's for the version of you that remembers the script. The world says, find your passion. But passion isn't the goal. Asterisk recollection asterisk is. They told you to lighten up. But lightness wasn't in the agreement. Your spiritual fatigue isn't a flaw. It's the cost of holding frequencies this world dismisses. You don't overthink. You underforget. And the deeper you go, the louder the whispers get. Asterisk, you agreed to this. Asterisk, the loneliness, the sensitivity, the moments of crushing clarity. They're not random. They're breadcrumbs, left by you for you. The cliffhanger? The mission starts when you stop mistaking the weight for a wound. The importance of remembering who you are. Your exhaustion is spiritual, not psychological. That's the first clue. No amount of sleep fixes it, because it's not fatigue, it's resistance. Resistance to the persona you've worn to survive. The world called it maturity. But peeling it off feels like shedding dead skin. Asterisk, awakening isn't learning. It's remembering. Asterisk, and every time you felt that electric jolt of asterisk, yes, this. Asterisk, reading a certain book, hearing a certain phrase. That was you recognizing yourself through the fog. You've spent lifetimes collecting scars to prove you're human. But here's the secret. You're not here to become. You're here to recall. The sadness, the joy, the rage that feels older than your body. They're not emotions. They're landmarks. Carl Jung warned. Asterisk. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. Asterisk, your so-called triggers aren't wounds. They're souvenirs from the battles you chose before birth. Every moment of despair whispered your real name. In the mirror, in the rain, in the way certain songs make your hands shake. Asterisk, there was star. But you mistook it for madness. They pathologized your depth because the alternative was terrifying. That you're right. That the cosmic nostalgia isn't fantasy, it's fact. The veil isn't there to hide the truth from you. It's there to hide you from the truth until you're ready to hold it. You think you're broken because you feel everything, but feeling is the mission. The vibrational mismatch isn't a curse, it's a compass. Every time the world said, don't take it personally, your soul laughed. It's all personal, because you're not here to float through life. You're here to alter it, gently, invisibly, the way a prism bends light without a sound. The cliffhanger? The moment you stop apologizing for your intensity, the world will start reflecting back what you've always known. Answering the inner call, to awaken. The call was never loud. It was sacred and still. A nudge at 4 a.m. A book that falls open to the right page. A stranger's glance that lasts a second too long. You've spent years dismissing these as coincidences because the world taught you to fear the unseen. But synchronicity is the universe's Morse code. And you're fluent. The mission isn't some grand destiny. It's the sum of every time you chose truth over comfort. You feared being too much because you were trained to shrink. But here's the paradox. Your energy sensitivity isn't a liability. It's the tool. The reason crowds drain you, the reason you sense lies before they're spoken, the reason you can't tolerate certain places or people, it's not anxiety. It's discernment. Your body isn't failing you. It's filtering for you. The veiling process wasn't meant to erase your power. It was meant to preserve it until you stopped fearing it. The mission starts when you finally stop pretending to be normal. Normalcy is a costume. And you were born to burn. Not recklessly, but with precision. Every old soul reaches this crossroads. The moment you realize your loneliness wasn't a symptom, it was preparation. The world needed you hollowed out so the echoes of your purpose could reverberate louder. Your peace begins the moment you stop apologizing for your light. Not by shouting, but by standing still, by letting the soul blueprint unfold without force. The karmic burden wasn't a punishment. It was a promise you made to yourself. And now, the contract is due, not in some grand finale, but in the quiet, in the way you stop bending, in the way you finally exhale. The cliffhanger? You've already answered the call. You're just now recognizing it.